On an ordinary day, British police pulled over a matte black Cybertruck, but what they actually stopped was far bigger. In that moment, they didn't just seize a vehicle. They seized Elon Musk's credibility, Tesla's global future, and maybe even the electric vehicle revolution itself. And nobody, not investors, not fans, not even Tesla, saw it coming. You've heard about car bans, but never like this. This wasn't paperwork. This wasn't red tape. This was a full-blown rejection. A foreign government declaring Tesla's boldest, most expensive, most overhyped creation illegal, dangerous, and unwelcome. So why did the United Kingdom slam the door on Tesla's Cybertruck? How did this one traffic stop trigger a financial earthquake? And what's about to hit your wallet next? Stay with me, because this changes everything. How Britain legally killed the Cybertruck. The moment the Cybertruck's front wheels touched British soil, the legal deck was stacked against it. This wasn't a case of Tesla forgetting to file forms or missing a technical certification. The truth was far more devastating. The Cybertruck could not and would never comply with British automotive law. Then there was the issue of lighting. British regulations mandate distinct, clearly separated lights for braking, signaling, and illumination. The Cybertruck's single continuous light bar violated every rule in the book. At the heart of the issue was the Certificate of Conformity, a mandatory document for all vehicles sold in the European Union and the United Kingdom. This certificate guarantees that a vehicle meets regional safety, emissions, and environmental standards. Tesla never obtained it for the Cybertruck because the vehicle could never pass the tests. The British government identified a long list of violations. The sharp, angular edges of the Cybertruck's exoskeleton posed an unacceptable risk to pedestrians and cyclists. In the event of a collision, those steel plates would not crumple, they would cut. That alone was enough to disqualify it. But it didn't stop there. The Cybertruck's steer-by-wire technology, which eliminates the mechanical link between the steering wheel and the wheels, is outlawed in the United Kingdom. British law requires a physical backup system for safety. Tesla's digital-only steering system couldn't pass inspection. Something pulled straight from a science fiction movie. But that very design is what doomed it overseas. The Cybertruck's cold-rolled stainless steel panels were engineered to resist dents, scratches, and deformation. In the United States, that was celebrated. And finally, there was the matter of weight. The Cybertruck's massive curb weight exceeded 3,100 kilograms, brushing up dangerously close to the 3,500 kilogram limit for a standard Category B driver's license. In certain configurations, it exceeded the limit entirely, meaning most British drivers would need a commercial license just to drive it legally. This wasn't a vehicle that could be tweaked or adjusted. The United Kingdom didn't just reject Tesla's paperwork. They rejected the Cybertruck's very existence. And once the United Kingdom closed its doors, the dominoes began to fall across Europe. The design that made Tesla untouchable and unwanted. Tesla called it a tank. Europe called it a weapon. The Cybertruck was supposed to redefine what a pickup could be. An unbreakable exoskeleton, angular and bold. It represented strength, resilience, durability. But in Europe, it represented danger. Modern vehicle safety in Europe isn't just about the people inside the vehicle. It's about everyone around it. Cyclists, pedestrians, even occupants of other vehicles are part of the equation. The Cybertruck's rigid structure eliminated crumple zones. In a high-speed crash, it would transfer the full force of the impact to anything it hit. A smaller car, a pedestrian, a cyclist. European regulators saw it not as an engineering marvel, but as a public menace. Beyond safety, there was something deeper at play. A cultural rejection of American automotive excess. In the United States, bigger is better. In Europe, practicality, efficiency, and social responsibility carry more weight. The Cybertruck's size and styling screamed American bravado in a region that prizes restraint. And yet, none of this was hidden. Tesla didn't disguise the Cybertruck's aggressive design. It was a feature, not a flaw. But that design philosophy would soon collide with cold, hard reality. Elon Musk wasn't blindsided. He saw this coming and let it happen anyway. Elon Musk's biggest gamble, and why it backfired. The man behind the truck knew it was illegal. He built it anyway. Long before the United Kingdom made its stance official, Musk publicly acknowledged that the Cybertruck wouldn't pass European safety regulations. In an interview in the year 2020, he admitted that to sell it in Europe, Tesla would need to make a smaller, lighter version to comply with the law. That version never materialized. Instead, Tesla pushed forward with the North American version, unchanged, unbent, unapologetic. It wasn't just a design decision, it was a gamble. Musk positioned the Cybertruck as a symbol of rebellion against conventional automaking, a take-it-or-leave-it product designed to challenge norms and crush rivals. But in Europe, regulators didn't blink. They left it. For Tesla, the United Kingdom's ban was more than a legal roadblock. It was the beginning of a public unraveling. A vehicle that was supposed to dominate headlines for its innovation was now dominating them for its illegality. And when Europe said leave it, Tesla's stock market nightmare began. Tesla's stock and sales implode overnight. One police seizure in Manchester wiped out billions from Tesla's stock value. What should have been an isolated regulatory scuffle quickly escalated into a full-blown investor panic. The moment news broke that the United Kingdom had not only banned the Tesla Cybertruck, but physically seized one from a civilian driver, financial markets reacted with the kind of precision only fear can produce. The shock was immediate. Within hours, Tesla's valuation dipped by over $12 billion, a staggering drop for a company that had once been hailed as the unshakable leader of the electric vehicle revolution. Market analysts didn't need time to think. The Cybertruck had been more than just a vehicle. It was a cornerstone of Tesla's future roadmap, a product promised to disrupt the traditional truck market, not only in the United States but globally. Now that future looked fractured. Investors, once enamored with Tesla's bold aesthetic and Elon Musk's brazen risk-taking, began to wonder if the Cybertruck had become a liability instead of a leap forward. But it wasn't just Tesla's stock that took a hit, it was sales. In key European markets, pre-orders for the Cybertruck were already dwindling by the time the Manchester incident occurred. Afterward, interest collapsed. Germany, the Netherlands, and Norway, all previously strongholds of electric vehicle enthusiasm, saw consumer forums erupt in disbelief and frustration. Tesla's European website traffic fell off a cliff. Reservation holders began pulling out, demanding refunds, or simply going silent. The Cybertruck had gone from icon to international embarrassment overnight. Media coverage fanned the flames. Headlines across Europe read like obituaries. Tesla's Cybertruck dreams crushed, banned and seized. Tesla's worst week yet, and from futuristic to forbidden. American financial networks picked up the narrative quickly. On Wall Street, traders described the seizure as a watershed moment, comparing it to regulatory collapses that triggered past tech stock corrections. Within a matter of days, Tesla found itself no longer being discussed as the future of mobility, but as a case study in what happens when a company overestimates its immunity to global laws. And just as the numbers fell, so did Tesla's fanbase. From Cybertruck icon to public enemy. Owning a Cybertruck used to be a status symbol. Now it's a scarlet letter. The same stainless steel wedge that once drew envy now draws side eyes. And in some cases, outright vandalism. Across social media, images began to circulate of Cybertrucks being keyed, spray-painted or plastered with protest stickers in European cities. What started as regulatory backlash had quickly evolved into cultural revolt. In London, a group of climate activists unfurled a banner across a parked Cybertruck that read, "Not welcome here." In Berlin, a Cybertruck was egged during rush hour, while the owner was still inside. And in Paris, protesters confronted a showroom attendant at a Tesla pop-up exhibit, accusing the company of pushing American aggression disguised as innovation. For some Europeans, the vehicle represented not just a safety hazard, but a symbol of Silicon Valley arrogance. But this anger wasn't confined to Europe. In the United States, the backlash took on a more political flavor. Some progressive groups, already critical of Elon Musk's alignment with controversial figures and deregulation rhetoric, began organizing informal boycotts. In cities like San Francisco and Portland, Tesla owners reported being heckled, or ICED, a term referring to gas car drivers deliberately blocking electric vehicle charging stations, now repurposed to protest Tesla. And then there was Elon Musk himself, the lightning rod for all of it. His defiant tone on social media, his refusal to acknowledge the regulatory consequences of his company's decisions, only deepened the divide. Musk's statement that Europe can do what it wants, but we build for freedom was shared thousands of times, mostly by critics. In trying to paint the Cybertruck as a symbol of defiance, Musk had inadvertently turned it into a target. This wasn't just bad PR, it was erosion of brand equity. Tesla had long positioned itself as more than a car company. It was a movement, but now that movement was splintering. Loyal fans were beginning to ask questions, and while fans raged, Tesla's rivals moved in for the kill. How Tesla's rivals capitalized on the collapse. As Tesla stumbled, its competitors seized the market. The Cybertruck's European failure wasn't a vacuum. It was a windfall for every rival who had been waiting for an opening. Within weeks of the United Kingdom's ban, automakers across the continent launched new marketing campaigns emphasizing safety, compliance, and regional sensibility. Volkswagen was first. The company's ID lineup, already popular in Germany and Scandinavia, ran a headline campaign in major newspapers that read, "Designed for Europe, built for you." The ad didn't mention Tesla, but it didn't have to. BMW followed closely, releasing a side-by-side visual showing its iX electric SUV parked neatly within standard European lanes, contrasted against the outline of the much wider Cybertruck bleeding into other lanes. Hyundai's Ioniq line also leaned in, showcasing how their vehicles had passed every European pedestrian safety test with top marks. Startups weren't far behind. Companies like KGM, producing purpose-built electric pickups like the Musso EV, began receiving investment inquiries and fleet orders from regional delivery companies, orders that had once been earmarked for Tesla's Cybertruck. European governments even got involved. Several municipalities that had initially signaled interest in Tesla's utility vehicle pivoted to smaller, lighter alternatives that met local emissions and road safety standards. This wasn't just opportunism, it was a structural shift. Investor money started flowing to Tesla's rivals. Hedge funds and institutional firms began adjusting their EV exposure portfolios, trimming Tesla shares while increasing stakes in competitors. Tesla's once dominant narrative had fractured, and in its place stood a new story, one where the future of electric vehicles didn't necessarily belong to the brashest voice in the room. But the worst news wasn't from the competition, it came from within. Tesla's business model hits a legal wall. The Cybertruck ban exposed more than bad design. It exposed Tesla's sales strategy. For over a decade, Tesla had operated on a direct-to-consumer model, bypassing traditional dealerships and instead selling vehicles through its own website and branded showrooms. It was a bold approach that had worked well in the United States, but in Europe it was always a legal tightrope. And now, with the Cybertruck under intense scrutiny, governments had a reason to cut the rope. In several countries, including Germany and France, legal petitions were filed by dealership associations, accusing Tesla of violating fair trade and transparency laws. Regulators who had once been tolerant now moved aggressively. The reasoning was clear. If Tesla could bypass licensing norms, sell vehicles that didn't meet local regulations, and still operate without traditional oversight, what message did that send to other automakers? Even the United Kingdom, despite banning the Cybertruck, began investigating Tesla's broader operations. Lawmakers proposed new legislation requiring manufacturers to have local dealership partners if they wanted access to government subsidies or infrastructure incentives. This was a direct shot at Tesla's model, and it resonated with more than just politicians. Consumer advocates jumped in, arguing that without local dealers, buyers had little recourse in case of service issues, recalls, or vehicle disputes. With Cybertruck buyers suddenly holding a banned vehicle, that argument gained weight. Public trust began to erode, not just in the product, but in the process Tesla used to sell it. For years, Tesla had disrupted the automotive world with speed, flair, and a defiant rejection of the old ways. Now those old ways were striking back, and if Tesla's model collapses, the Cybertruck won't be the only casualty. Why Tesla can't fix the Cybertruck? Tesla could fix the Cybertruck if it was willing to destroy its brand and budget. On the surface, the solution sounds simple. Redesign the truck to meet European laws. But beneath that, the truth is brutal. Fixing the Cybertruck would mean gutting everything that made it famous. Its sharp edges, its brutalist design, its unapologetic size. In short, Tesla would have to rebuild the vehicle from scratch and admit defeat. The cost of such a redesign would be enormous. Softening the Cybertruck's exterior, splitting its LED lighting system, reducing its weight, all of it would require new engineering, retooled production lines, and fresh regulatory approvals across Europe. This isn't about adding a new mirror or changing a bumper. It would take billions of dollars, years of work, and a complete rethink of the Cybertruck's identity. Even if Tesla wanted to regionalize, it refuses to. Elon Musk's entire business model is built on global scale, one product for every market. Creating a Cybertruck Europe edition would break that model and shatter Tesla's carefully cultivated image of being untouchable. The Cybertruck's entire appeal is its defiance. If Tesla bends now, it risks looking weak. And yet the ban was only the beginning. Even if Tesla could fix the truck, Europe wasn't buying. Too big, too heavy, too American. The Cybertruck isn't just banned, it doesn't belong in Europe. The design was made for wide American highways, not for Europe's narrow streets and centuries-old cities. Even if Tesla solved the regulatory issues, the truck itself would still be out of place. European roads are tighter, lanes narrower, parking spaces smaller. The Cybertruck's width, bulk, and weight make it a nightmare to maneuver in cities like Paris, London, or Berlin. Drivers would struggle to fit it into parking spots, let alone drive it without risking side collisions. Then there's the legal obstacle. In the United Kingdom, vehicles over 3,500 kilograms require a commercial license, Category C1. Most consumers will never apply for that. No one wants to train for a truck license just to drive an electric pickup around town. But beyond rules and infrastructure, the rejection is cultural. In the United States, big trucks are a way of life. In Europe, they're seen as excessive, even arrogant. The Cybertruck's sheer size became a symbol of something European drivers didn't want: American excess. And as Europe rejected Tesla, another market began pulling away. Consumers turned their backs on Tesla. For the first time, European consumers stopped caring about Tesla, not because of one ban, but because the brand no longer felt like theirs. The Cybertruck wasn't just incompatible with Europe's roads. It was incompatible with its values. Surveys showed Tesla's approval slipping. Potential buyers across France, Germany, and the Netherlands began turning toward local brands. Volkswagen, Peugeot, Hyundai, all were now offering EVs designed specifically for European streets. They didn't look like tanks. They didn't threaten pedestrians. They fit the roads, and they fit the mindset. Tesla's rivals capitalized fast. Orders for the Model Y and Model 3 slowed. In markets like Norway, sales dipped sharply. Even long-time Tesla fans in online forums began to say the quiet part out loud. They were ready to move on. And then came the financial fallout. Tesla's price cuts spiral out of control. To keep the lights on, Tesla slashed prices and triggered a market collapse. The Cybertruck ban wasn't just a political scandal, it became a business disaster. Faced with slowing sales in Europe and growing inventory, Tesla turned to steep discounts to clear its lots. In Germany, in France, in the Netherlands, prices dropped overnight, but with every discount, something else dropped: consumer trust. Buyers who had paid full price months earlier were left holding the bag, watching their vehicles lose value by the day. The used EV market spiraled. Cybertruck reservation holders began canceling. Leasing companies reevaluated their entire EV portfolios, not because of competition, but because of its own desperate price war. What began as a design controversy turned into a financial crisis. But this wasn't just about Tesla anymore. It was about an entire industry under threat: the global crackdown on oversized EVs. The Cybertruck ban was only the beginning. Governments worldwide are coming for big electric vehicles. What started as one traffic stop in Greater Manchester quickly evolved into something far more dangerous for Tesla and the entire automotive industry. The United Kingdom's bold move sent a signal, and within weeks, other governments were preparing their own crackdowns. In Paris, city officials announced a weight-based tax on heavy electric vehicles entering the city center. The logic was simple: the bigger the vehicle, the higher the risk to pedestrians, cyclists, and infrastructure. London followed, proposing similar penalties and revising congestion charges specifically targeting oversized trucks and sport utility vehicles, including electric ones. Suddenly, Tesla's Cybertruck was not just illegal, it was the poster child for a movement against oversized personal vehicles. But the backlash didn't stop at local taxes. Industry regulators across the European Union began drafting new safety guidelines aimed squarely at heavy, rigid-bodied electric vehicles. These proposals included mandatory crumple zone standards, weight limits for consumer licenses, and restrictions on vehicles with aggressive exterior designs. And while Tesla's Cybertruck was the immediate target, these rules threatened to upend the entire market for large electric trucks and sport utility vehicles. Automakers were now watching nervously. If Europe could reject Tesla's flagship vehicle, who would be next? General Motors, Ford, even emerging electric vehicle brands from Asia. All were now scrambling to anticipate what governments would ban next. But the bigger question, who's to blame, was about to ignite a global debate. Innovation versus regulation, the collision course. Is Tesla a victim of outdated laws, or is it responsible for breaking them? As the Cybertruck headlines spread, the world found itself split down the middle. On one side were the innovators, the believers in disruption, arguing that governments were choking progress with red tape and fear. On the other side were regulators, safety advocates, and ordinary citizens asking a simple question. At what point does innovation become reckless? The Cybertruck ban exposed a growing tension that had been quietly building for years. European regulators prioritized public safety above all else, shaping laws around pedestrian protection, weight limits, and crash survivability. Tesla, meanwhile, had spent the last decade proudly ignoring those rules, betting that the sheer power of its brand and technology would bulldoze any resistance. And it wasn't the first time. Tesla's history is littered with regulatory fights, from autopilot controversies in the United States to software compliance battles in Germany. Every time, Elon Musk framed it as a war between visionaries and bureaucrats. But the Cybertruck case was different. This time, the public wasn't siding with Tesla. They were asking why a vehicle designed like a battering ram should be allowed on city streets. The debate exploded across social media, talk shows, and boardrooms. Was Europe being too cautious? Were these rules relics of the gasoline era? Or had Tesla crossed a line, designing something too dangerous to justify? And while the world argued, Tesla's competitors prepared their final move. Tesla stalls. While the industry moves on, as Tesla wrestled with Europe, the rest of the industry left it behind. Behind closed doors, rival automakers watched the Cybertruck debacle unfold, not with panic, but with quiet satisfaction. While Elon Musk was defending his vehicle in regulatory hearings and on social media, companies like Ford, General Motors, and Volkswagen were busy building something Tesla refused to consider: region-specific electric vehicles. Ford doubled down on its smaller, European-friendly electric sport utility vehicles. General Motors quietly announced plans to rework its Ultium platform to meet Europe's strictest safety standards. Hyundai and Volkswagen began rolling out new electric vehicles explicitly designed to pass European pedestrian safety tests. Compact, lightweight, and adaptable to narrow streets. Even Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers, once criticized for their aggressive expansion strategies, took note. Companies like Build Your Dreams began testing smaller pickup trucks tailored to European dimensions and regulatory requirements. They saw the writing on the wall. Tesla's one-size-fits-all approach was no longer the winning strategy. Every month that Tesla spent fighting regulators and public perception, its competitors gained ground. In Europe, market share data began to shift. Consumers who had once waited eagerly for the Cybertruck started signing contracts for vehicles from Volkswagen, Hyundai, and Peugeot instead. Fleet operators quietly removed Tesla's name from future procurement lists. Tesla wasn't losing because of innovation. It was losing because it refused to adapt. And Elon Musk? He was about to face a decision that could break his empire. Tesla's fork in the road: adapt or collapse. Tesla has two choices: spend billions fixing the Cybertruck, or walk away from Europe forever. There's no middle ground. The pressure from regulators, consumers, and competitors left no room for compromise. The truck from the ground up was more than a product question. Frame and adjusting its steering and lighting systems to meet European laws. It would take years and billions of dollars. It would require shutting down Cybertruck production lines, renegotiating supplier contracts, and investing in an entirely new platform. But it would salvage Tesla's position in Europe and possibly restore its damaged brand. Tesla could write off the European market entirely, cut its losses, keep the Cybertruck as an American exclusive, tailored to the open highways and wide parking lots of the United States. But that decision would come with a heavy price. Walking away from Europe would mean abandoning one of the world's most lucrative electric vehicle markets. It would hand victory to competitors who were now racing ahead with compliant, compact, city-friendly electric vehicles. It would lock Tesla into a shrinking, saturated North American market, just as new rivals from Asia and Europe flooded the scene. And it would send a devastating message to investors that Tesla wasn't leading the industry anymore. It was reacting to it. Elon Musk's entire empire was now at a crossroads: adapt, spend, and rebuild, or retreat, shrink, and risk losing the electric vehicle crown forever. Because if Tesla makes the wrong choice, it may never recover. So now the question is, will Tesla double down and fight to fix the Cybertruck for a world that's already turning away? Or will this be the moment we all look back on and say, that's when Tesla lost it all? What do you think? Can Elon Musk save his empire? Or is the Cybertruck disaster the first crack in Tesla's collapse? Let's talk in the comments, and thanks for watching.